Okay, so we've actually got quite a mammoth task before us this morning. We have Genesis chapter 23 and Genesis chapter 24 today. And Genesis chapter 24 is the longest chapter in the book of Genesis. So what we're going to do is we're going to home in a lot more on Genesis chapter 24 this morning. And I would just want to give you kind of an overview of Genesis chapter 23 to start with now. So you're going to need to read the verses of Genesis chapter 23 on your own to get a bigger picture of what's going on there. But let me just talk you through some of the things that we see there in Genesis chapter 23 before we read Genesis chapter 24 together. So Genesis 23 marks the death of Sarah, and also Abraham's desire to purchase a place of burial for her. Like her husband, Sarah had had her ups and downs, and those unfortunate downs that we've thought about when it came to her walk with the Lord. But the Bible still describes her as a godly woman. She was a good mother to Isaac and a good wife to Abraham, following his lead and holding on to the promise alongside him. The chapter is mostly about the lengthy and frankly hilarious business transaction between Abraham and Ephron. On the surface of things, Ephron seems to be being really generous to Abraham, wanting to just give him the land and the tomb that's within it. But it turns out that that's actually not the case at all. In actual fact, he charges Abraham an extortionate amount for this land. From the book of Jeremiah, we know that the going rate for a piece of land was about 17 shekels, but Abraham ends up paying 400 shekels for this place. But he's happy. He's happy to do that because it's incredibly important to him to honour his wife. But Abraham also wanted to have a piece of this promised land, even if it was just a small piece, before he died. This wasn't just for Sarah's benefit or for his, because he was looking forward to the city with foundations whose builder and architect is God, as we know. No, he mostly, almost certainly wanted a piece of this promised land for the benefit of those that he would leave behind him. He'd spent many years in Canaan, engaging in public worship to his God, seeking to be the gospel blessing that he was called to be to its inhabitants. But when he and his family died and when his descendants were enslaved in another land for 400 years, he wanted there to be a permanent gospel witness in the promised land in the form of this tomb. It's not only where Sarah was buried, but also where Abraham, Isaac, Rebekah, Leah, and Jacob were going to be buried as well. This place would become a permanent reminder of the gospel blessing that they were all called to be in the promised land. It continued to speak of the witness that they'd been to Christ, even after they'd died.